The expressed views of the guests on this podcast are theirs alone and not necessarily endorsed by the host, TWBC, or any associated sponsor. Conversations that are robust yet balanced, on point and to the point. You are listening to the talk of tournament water skiing. This is the TWBC Podcast. And now, here's your host, Tony Lightfoot.
Well, greetings one and all, and this is the very first podcast of the year 2024 for the TWBC Podcast. I am Tony Lightfoot, and glad to have you on board. Now, for a first podcast episode, I'm sure some of you are wondering, who does Tony have for a big old guest to get the ski season up and running in the Northern Hemisphere? Who could he bring on board to basically light a fire under the season? Well, I have just the person, the new executive director of USA Water Ski and Wake Sports. He is Kevin Michael. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, man. Doing great, especially hearing this voice in my ears. You've been around for a long time, and you're a legend in this space, so it's an absolute honor to be here.
Oh, you flatter me too much, sir. But let's dig straight into the weed. Let's go deep into the weeds a little bit. So, who is Kevin Michael? So basically, kind of introduce yourself to the good folks out there. Give us a little cliff notes as to what your experience is in terms of water sports and skiing and all of that kind of stuff. Because I understand that once upon a long ago you were an active, competitive free event skier. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, my name's Kevin Michael. I grew up in Wisconsin. I'm on a nickname basis with a lot of the industry and athletes as Kevco. And yeah, grew up in Wisconsin. We had the Aquanaut water ski show team right down the road. They were national champions. So, you know, how important is vicinity to the entry points of our existence in this thing? So started out show skiing, but my friend had a Supra, that really cool comp TS6M back in the day with the drop down nose, sports car looking ski boat. And
oh yeah, that's Supra from way back in the late 80s. Oh my word, that's going back a bit, isn't it?
Yeah, we had to take it to promotional events to get the deal he was getting. And one of those was in Decatur, Illinois. And I was just getting into competitive trick skiing and slalom course and jumping. And Freddie Krueger and I were both 15 years old at the time. And we were both landing flips on our trick ski.
Oh, you name dropper. You name dropper.
You're going to drop a name. Drop a big one, right?
Absolutely.
But, you know, that was my first three event experience. You know, and he was 15, so he was just a up and coming guy. I remember we were landing our flips on the trick poorly, you know, the butt dunk stand up and everything. But I knew he was going to be something just by watching him and the attention that was around him. And then, you know, fast forward, I skied at SeaWorld for many years, skied around the world in different ski shows. The show ski world was huge in the 90s. Many opportunities.
That's the Sea World that's in Orlando rather than the one that's in San Antonio, just to make sure that people get the difference.
Yeah, I did both. There were 4 Sea Worlds in the States at the time, and then there were probably 12 to 15 different professional outlets and places that you could go become a professional show skier, and that was life, man. But you know, I had an injury and I had a degree in communications, so my boss and manager at SeaWorld, Tom Weber, looped me into World Publications, which might ring a bell to some of you folks because they were the publishers of Water Ski Magazine, Wakeboarding Magazine, a bunch of cool water sports enthusiast titles. And my first job with them was testing boats for the Water Ski Magazine Boat Buyer's Guide. So Todd Risterselli got his start that same year. Him and I ended up working next to each other for 13 years. He hired Ronnie Barton and Chris Sullivan, you know, to come in and help on editorial at the magazine. And it was a huge, you know, magazines were a big deal then. This is before social media. So the internet was just getting hot, and we were trying to keep up with that, but there was
Yeah.
no social media.
Yeah, because
So,
way back in those days, people were like manually creating pages and not having like a content management system in the background that could update all that information. So it was like Steam-driven news on your screen type deal.
Yeah, totally. But it was just an exciting time. You never knew who would walk in. It'd be Chris Parrish one day, Andy Mappel will roll through. And, I grew up idolizing those heroes, the Sammy Duvals and Camille and Dina. And like that, I knew at an early age, as a beginner, somehow I knew in my head that I wanted to become a professional water skier. And I don't know why, but I was talking about this yesterday. It's like when you love something so much and can't get enough of it, there's just something that you just know you're going to do this for the rest of your life. And I had no doubt about that from a young age. And here we are many, many years later with, the most exciting opportunity and moment that, our sport has seen.
All right, our paths may have actually crossed at some stage. You mentioned Tom Weber, and I knew him from way back in the day when I did the Water Ski Pro Tour. Actually announced the entire season in 1997. I don't know whether you were you in place right then. I remembered going to spots such as Hartford, Connecticut, and Portland, Oregon, and all of those far flung locales. So it was a really good time to be involved in the sport. I mean, at least from my point of view, being an announcer type deal. But fast forward to now, and we live in a different space, different day and age, where our sport is, let's be honest, I mean, it's suffering, and we need, and certainly an injection from for instance, select few people to kind of raise the profile back up again, and it seems to me that you are one of those folks that could well be entrusted with the task of doing that, going forwards.
Absolutely. I'll be clear in no uncertain terms. That's the job description, and that's my goal. We've all seen what water skiing did in the late 80s to early 90s. I rode that wave again with wakeboarding, major worldwide attention on a global scale, events like the X Games. We know what that looks like, and we know what that feels like. And so, then the question is, how are you going to do it? Well, I come from an enthusiast standpoint, and I come from an approach of fun. Our sports, slaloming in particular, is very a lot of visualization, a lot of sports psychology, and there's a lot of preparation that goes into it. But my approach has always been, when I show up on site, all that work's been done in the past. Like, how many times have we turned a buoy, or how many times have we launched off a ramp? It's muscle memory at that point. So yeah. I really like to inject some fun. And an interesting point too, Tony, is think about competition. If you're the competitor, this is a competition, right? To everyone else, it's entertainment. So if you're watching TWBC or anything else, it's entertainment. So I want to make sure that we bring a sense of levity to this, and that's taking the weight out of heavy situations. I think Wade Cox was really good at that. Parks Bonifay is the master, and it really helps if the athletes can focus on that. And I can help shape their image and their lifestyle. That's what draws kids in to say, oh, you know what? I'm kind of sick of these team sports. I'm getting forced to do this and that, and the coach is kind of riding me hard. And when you grab the handle and get out in the water, man, it's an escape. Like, you can really escape. And there is a huge competitive element to what we do. It's, we're a membership-based organization based on the events that we host, which are 70 in the U.S. This year. So there is that element to it. But if you're asking me to market the sport and grow the sport, the media guy in me is going to create a story. Team USA is a great story, even though it's an individual endeavor. Team USA is something it's a hook, and it's a part of something bigger. And there's people that have spent decades of their life in this thing. I'm one of them. You're one of them. And, they're desperate for the next step. There's been a slight decline for a long time in these activities, and people are sick of it, and they're revolting. And so we're kicking off a water ski revolution, full bore. I'm getting on the water as much as I can every weekend. I'm going to be skiing with someone different. Yeah, the first week at this job was very interesting, and I've already had some incredible experiences on the water.
Certainly. I mean, you mentioned the whole Team USA aspect, and whenever you think of Team USA, so to speak, the three people that come to my mind, and I have no association with ice hockey whatsoever, but I mean, you're talking about Herb Brooks and Jim Craig and Micah Ruzioni and those folks. And for those folks that are listening from outside the United States, these were the backbone people behind the Miracle on Ice in 1980. So if you kind of have that vision in mind, how do you kind of work that into the equation when it comes to making people get behind the sport from a nationalistic type scenario?
Yeah, and let's be clear, water skiing is not likely to become an Olympic sport. There's a lot of mixed perceptions about our involvement with the U.S. Olympic Committee, and there's a motor involved. Just like you're never going to see NASCAR in the Olympics, you're never going to see motocross. That's a big barrier, always has been for us. However, being on the committee, we are in the auspices of the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. Auspices is kind of a fun word for in their view. We're in their view. It's
used by the IWWF a lot, so I'll forgive you for that.
Cool. Yeah, my fun word of the week. But there's multiple benefits that are infinitely expansive as far as opportunities for our elite athletes and otherwise. Our top athletes are getting health insurance, and this isn't your marketplace government health insurance. This is Olympic health insurance, which allows you to attend one of 3 national training centers. There's sports medicine, pharmacy benefits, and all kinds of like sports psychology. And I'm on call after call with these guys for onboarding, and I'm blown away at the benefits of being involved with this group, even if we never make it to the Olympics.
Is it anything close to what and try and beat the living snot out of this? But someone like Jamie Ball, for example, or Dorian Llewellyn, they've won world titles. I mean, you could go back to 2021 and both Jamie Ball and Dorian Llewellyn won individual titles, and they got carded, which basically is essentially sponsored from a government level, to continue to train and to get better and what have you, and have access to Canadian national facilities and what have you, and basically get paid to do what they do. So is it anything close to that, or is it kind of just the insurance and the centers?
Yeah, and I would like to request some time to get up to speed on all these details. But what I can tell you is that there's I think 5 or 6 athletes that are on this program, and we don't want to be myopic to just the heroes and the elites. This is bigger, and it's 14,000 members and gonna be growing. So give me some time to see what really we can offer. But I have a ton of experience managing professional athletes on a large scale, and there's a lot of athletes that either they just focus on their craft. That's great. That's ideal. Or maybe they work in the industry too. Maybe they work for their sponsors, or maybe, a different type of athlete who shows up at the tournaments, but has to go work in finance all week, 9 to 5. And it's just their outlet. So I'm looking to create opportunities for those top tier and second tier athletes where, maybe it's social media they can help out with, and we can help fund that. And that's what keeps them from having to go get a real job. I want to create opportunities for these elite athletes, and really, because if you're in your lower 20s, mid 20s, whatever, you will never get these years back again. I can speak for experience as much as I've tried to, ski at that level. It's a window of your life that you're never going to get back. And I want to do everything I can. My experience with the manufacturers at WSIA is a big part of why I'm here, and my relationships with them. And I got to live the dream, Tony, with a lot of opportunity and just focus on water skiing. And it really warms my heart to be able to facilitate that for today's athletes.
All right, then. Okay, you've just provided an absolutely wonderful segue. I can tell you are the right guy for this job. A beautiful segue to your past role, probably one of your more recent roles as one of the folks at WSIA. Now, for those of you that are not very close to the industry, this is the industry body. This is basically the body that will go to Washington, D.C., and that will lobby for the interest of the water sports industry. The acronym is Water Sports Industry Association, and kind of give us a little bit of kind of like an inside Hollywood type deal as to what that organization is about, and kind of what you did for them, and how that helps with what you are undertaking now.
Sure, yeah. WSIA is a nonprofit trade association. So it's for all the businesses in our world. And it started out as kind of a towboat group, an equipment group, and we grew it big time with the help of Larry Maddock, who came before me. A lot of you know him as the director of the Masters and 27 years at Nautique. And, we took it to the next level by involving every single boat dealer in America, every single cable park, camp, and school. So we went from 250 business members to 450 in a matter of 5 years. And what I did there was reshape their mission. They didn't really have a defined, current mission. And, being a promoter and an ambassador that I am, I changed the mission to promote and protect, because wake surfing has a ton of problems on lakes, just with, the waves, the wave action, and the loud music and all that we don't have to get into. I'm sure, water skiers are well aware of what that looks like.
Yeah, because
and so
you mentioned that a little bit, and as you're going through that, I was like saying, please mention something about what's going on in Congress and on a national legislative level. That not only has a profound effect upon the actual activity that is being eyed on, but it also has a trickle down effect to what other activities do on that same lake. And even though it may not have, they may not throw big wake surf wakes, they'll legislate against one and mean it for it to be everyone. So before you know it, people enjoying the lake skiing at 36 miles an hour, you're going to have to go back out on the lake and do what you do at 10 mile an hour.
Yeah, exactly. And a big part of this was my board seat that I held on the NMMA, National Marine Manufacturers Association. This is all the big boat manufacturers. They run the Miami Boat Show, which is the Super Bowl.
And that nice big sticker that you have on the inside of your boat with the capacity, that's those guys.
Exactly. And a bunch of other things. But they would line me up with meetings in Washington, D.C. I was shaking hands with Val Demings, Marco Rubio. I was in Senator Bill Nelson's office. We were sharing stories about mutual friends we have. And that was an amazing experience, Tony. It was, you suit up and you go in and you lobby for whatever the current, issues are in boating. We lobbied for ethanol-free gasoline because it's better for boats and the marine engine components. And next thing you know, man, here I am next year in Florida. Following year, you see a blue tag. It says boat gas here. I'm like, wow. I was walking around with materials talking to members of Congress about this, and it happened. So I was promoting, clean water. How important is clean water to our activities? And how big is the threat of, polluted, dirty water? So, that's a tough subject. life jacket use, all those types of things.
And providing space for the potential for cable parks and that kind of stuff as well. I guess there are folks there that don't particularly like the prospect of having these great big steel towers, on all four corners of their lake, even though it might actually have a better, in terms of environmental, a far lesser impact than maybe the boats. But that's what you kind of lobby in terms of the Washington D.C. to going up all the way to D.C. to argue these facts, and So give us an example. You mentioned about ethanol in fuels and that kind of stuff. Kind of what were maybe one or two of the other hot button topics that are there being discussed?
Well, I some will remain private. I used to at that job, I kept the industry's biggest secrets, and together we solved the industry's biggest problems. Immigration and labor was a big issue at the factories, at the boat factories.
Okay.
And I saw a woman stand up in front of all men at this NMMA board meeting and in DC and say, listen, if you guys want good help, you're going to have to pay for it. And you're going to have to raise your, wages and all the stuff. And the whole room went, whoa. It was very powerful.
Yeah.
There's just, some letters written and some, a lot of what happens there too is in the hallways and at the social hours, it's invaluable.
Indeed. I mean, something like that. Wouldn't automatically come up on the radar, but then suddenly, whoa, hello, we're discussing something else entirely here. Because like the water sports, kind of touches upon a lot of things, like labor laws, immigration, environmental materials, that kind of stuff, what you can put into the boat, what you can't put into the boat, and what have you. So it touches upon a lot of things.
Yes, sir.
All right. So let's carry on a little bit because we spoke a little bit before as I hit the record button on this podcast, and I had this down on my list of questions, and that was one of the very first questions that you had on the list. What was your first week like?
Oh man, it was heavy. It was, the culmination of 3 months that I'd put into this thing in the interview process. I went all in. I knew I had the experience and I knew I was a good match, but there's a lot of plate spinning. We have 9 sport disciplines and a lot of groups. AWSA, they've been around. They're the founding pillar. The Water Skier magazine started in 1951. It's the greatest documented history of water skiing in the United States, and it's hilarious. If you go back and read the early issues, it's just riveting content. But this was something I did not take lightly. The sport itself and my approach to the activity is definitely fun and lighthearted and having a good time, but this is a big responsibility. I'm very aware of that, and my first week was just a lot of calls with the U.S. Olympic Committee and whatnot. But my first day on the job, I get a call from Regina Jaquist. And, I knew her because I used to work at Malibu, and I'd write a press release about her breaking her world record on the new TXI. And then a couple months later, I'd write another article about her breaking another record behind the TXI. And, so I'd never really hung out with her, though. We just weren't on the same photo shoots, and it was just kind of over the phone and interviews and writing articles and creating content. But she called me on the first day, and I answered, and she's like, Cavco, congratulations, this is awesome. She's just, you guys all know her demeanor, and how great it is. She's just a ray of light, man. And she's like, so I'm coming to Orlando, and I'm going skiing. I'm getting ready for Moomba, and you should come out. And I was like, heck yeah, let's do this. So, that was my first Saturday. I went out and met her. She was skiing with Kiwi out there at Fluid. His son, Jaden, was out there ripping. And, she kind of said, I said, I'll get some clips, for social media. And she's like, okay, you want to hop in the boat? And I said, no, like I want to get in the water, and they're like, oh, it's pretty chilly. Got my full suit. So I went in and got water level. I'm a third generation photographer and video producer and been around media my whole life. And I really want to put a new look and just creative effort into everything that comes out of USA. And so I got in the water and I did some slow-mo clips of her rounding buoys and put a cool song to it. It's on our Instagram account in our reels. And it's just Gina locking in on Moomba. And, there's a big storyline for us. I'm looking for storylines. Moomba is the one title that has eluded her. She's won it in tricks before.
Yeah.
But never. It's probably the only title she doesn't have out of the majors.
And in recent years, Regina hasn't really availed herself to actually go to Moomba on a number of occasions since the time that she won tricks. But now this year, I don't know what the circumstances are that has allowed Regina to kind of take a little bit of break from her pharmacy work in the Panhandle of Florida and go on to the late fall sunny climes of southern Australia.
Yeah, totally. So we're rallying behind her and all our other Team USA athletes, and it's going to be an exciting Moomba this year.
Absolutely, it's going to be an intriguing one. You mentioned that you'd worked for Malibu. How long was that?
2012 through 2016. I came on. Lonnie Farmer was there at the time, and she hired me to write press releases. And they came out with the new TXI. Country music star Jake Owen had a #1 signal on the country music charts, Barefoot Blue Jean Night, and he was wakeboarding behind a Malibu in the video. And then they launched Surfgate, which is delayed convergence technology that Malibu had proprietary, and they were first to market with it. Mm-hmm. And Lonnie was kind of asking me, like, do you have enough to write about? I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, Regina setting world records. They're like, this is writing itself. This is a media guy's dream. But I ended up being there for 4 years, and I worked closely with Jack Springer, who was their CEO. And, I wrote his quotes and helped him, his CEO image. I worked on site for all the big Malibu events. I got to know Dennis Kelly really well. What a guy, man. And, it was when media was becoming big. Malibu didn't have an Instagram at the time. So we, with Bryant Thomas, helped secure Malibu boats on Instagram, and their Facebook page was just a friends page for Malibu boats. So we turned it into a business page, and there's a lot of things I was able to do there. And, again, riding a wave, this company went public during that time, publicly traded company on the U.S. Stock Exchange. And, it was just, I really got to experience what it's like for a boat company to really, really accelerate in growth and revenue. And, that was a tremendous experience.
Yes, you kind of outlined the details of Malibu when the times were good, but unfortunately, in the last few weeks, and I'm glad you mentioned Dennis Kelly. Let's get into it. Unfortunately, thank you for opening the taps on that one. Dennis Kelly, who after over 30 years being involved in the Malibu promo program, was let go recently, and there were mutterings being said that, is this the end of the tournament water ski boat from Malibu? But we've received assurance from the marketing person there at Malibu that they will continue to produce the TXI. That press release came out about a week or so ago. But obviously, Malibu boats and what their deal is over the last few years, but I'm sure you've got a few thoughts in your mind about that going forward at this time.
Okay, yes, and there was a lot of speculation around DK's departure, and it was a bummer for us all. 30 years he spent. Anyone that's spent time around him knows he's great, and great sense of humor and just a passionate soul. So it sparked a lot of speculation and a lot of rumors. And I get that it happens, but we got to be careful. And, I'm a communications specialist, and you got to stick with the facts in these situations, because no one sitting at their computer on their home lake knows what's really going on at Malibu internals. And this was during, I think there were 9 other layoffs at the time. Malibu just experienced their worst quarter in a long time. Their production and sales were down, I believe it was 35% in 2023 compared to 2022. And this is overall, and the TXI is only a small part of that. I don't want to say how many numbers, but a lot of us know the numbers, and they're not great. And there's a whole side of that coin that, they're so expensive now. And a lot of us skiers have been around and have spent less on new boats, and now they're so expensive. So I get that. But DK's gone. That must mean the promo program's gone. Well, it's not. I have a statement from Malibu that says they will continue the promotional program as well as the service from the dealers on that level. The Malibu Open is maybe something that will be lost. However, I've been in talks with Regina, and, I don't want to speak too much about that, but there's going to be something happening this summer to make up for that. We have a great facility out here where I'm sitting right now at the Auburndale Sports Complex, Lake Myrtle Sports Complex. Visit Central Florida is pumping in, a bunch of support to get people to visit the water ski capital of the world. And we have a great ski lake out here with a brand new jump. And John Travers is coming out in a couple weeks to install the slalom course. Will Bush helped design this lake. And it's beautiful. And there's a Camp Margaritaville right on the lake with a ton of high-end RV slips and cabin rentals. And, it's just a dream out here. So we're going to do everything we can to make up for the Malibu Open. And as far as production of the TXI, I know who to talk to about that type of stuff. And you talk to the engineers, because they're the ones that know what's in the production line and what they're planning for in the future of the production line. And they are continuing production of the TXI into the foreseeable future, which, we can gather to me means 2025. Now, the bigger problem, Tony, is that these boats aren't selling the way they need to. And furthermore, the company doesn't make the margins that they do off a $350,000 24-foot wake boat. They're selling fiberglass and big engine at that point, and I don't hate on the margins, and I don't hate on the price, because there's people out there that will spend that money, and we need to embrace the affluent customer base. And if you want a cheaper boat, you start out on the used market.
Yeah.
The used market is great. And boats in America right now, the used market, you can get a killer Malibu Response from 2010 and get a great deal on it and go out and rip, so it doesn't impede access or inhibit access to the sport. Like, I hear a lot of professionals in their twilight, whether it's wakeboarders, skiers, oh man, they're keeping new people from getting in the sport. And I don't believe that to be true. Like, when the industry's making money, their marketing budget's bigger, their sponsorship dollars are more, and there's more events. And so we don't want to hate on the industry making money. Like, that's a good thing. And you can choose what kind of products you want, whether it's a used boat, and unfortunately, a lot of people think that the used boats are enough. And some of the bells and whistles on the new boats are too much. A lot of people have been on boats their whole life, want everything they need and nothing that they don't. And, maybe there's too many bells and whistles, and we can talk about the sport boats and boats that aren't necessarily world record capable, but are still recreational water ski boats.
That sounds like the slogan for the Nissan Xterra all the way back in the day. Everything you need, everything you need and nothing you don't, but
sure.
But I mean, you touched upon the used boat market, and it's a pretty good market from what I'm able to tell, and a lot of people, they ski competitively. I mean, they want the latest and greatest, but I mean, you can get a really, really good Malibu or a Mastercraft or even like a Nautique 200 from way back in the day install, the latest firmware for zero off, and if you really want to go in deep on this one, put a SurePath in there, a SurePath system, to really help out with the people that kind of struggle a little bit driving wise, and you've got yourself a great setup there.
Yeah, man. I saw SurePath. I got to ski with Corey Vaughn as well. He was in Orlando, and I got to ski with him in absolutely glass conditions out in Winter Garden. And then I've been spending a lot of time out at Travers, man. I went and visited them, and this is while I was still interviewing, and they sat down, man. The whole family took time off from what they were doing. They had a packed ski school happening in rotation. And, Jack and Leilani came up, and Chris Travers and John Travers. My friend George Hartman helped broker this meeting, and we talked. I had planned on maybe 30, 45 minutes. We probably sat up there for an hour and a half. And just to see the look in their eyes about, their business is okay, but how can we grow this thing? And, this is a family that believes water skiing. I mean, JT John is just like, he's a guru, and he knows everything about the course, everything about the jump. He knows everything about everything. And these are the people that get me excited. And, it's a beautiful course. You were there for the Worlds. I'm sure a lot of listeners were there for the Worlds. What an iconic facility that we have there. And again, visit Central Florida, the hotbed. This is the Hollywood. And I want to make sure, whether it's myself or anyone on our staff or membership, we're ambassadors for this region. And we just want to welcome everyone to come down and train and have a good time, especially if it's cold in your area. Central Florida is as hot as it's ever been as far as the talent goes, and just excitement. And I've been living this for 25 years now, and it never gets old, man.
All right. So a lot of the responses that you've given so far as the facilities go, the USA Water Ski facility over in Auburndale, the ski fluid and what have you, Jack Travers' site, all great sites. One could almost label the accusation that maybe the sport, for better or worse, is very, very Florida centric, such as where the talent lies and where where people get to train, where it's the USA Water Ski represents the entire nation. I mean, there are great sites out there, out in California all the way up to Montana, and I'm interviewing you from Tri Lakes, which is the home of Bennett's Water Ski School in Zachary, Louisiana. Big shout out to the folks there. So I mean, how important is it for you to kind of grow the sport, not only from the locale of Central Florida, the Sunshine State, but what about the Bayou State and and the Golden State and everywhere in between?
Of course, great question. Our major focus, for 3 months before I had this job, I listened. I operate at the wishes of the board of directors. So when it comes to growth, I was hearing a lot of things. And once you hear the same thing from 3, 4, 5 different sources, maybe everybody you talk to, they all point to the collegiate. The collegiate group of ours, the sport discipline, very strong leadership. Christy Kingsmill, Jeff Surday from way back. And there's about 1,000 members in that group right now out of our 14,000. And just for reference, there's 6,500 in AWSA. So 8,000 total 3-eventers are in our members. So that means they're active in competition. And so the collegiate, they're in every region. Anywhere that can get on the water has potential to start a collegiate water ski team. And if you haven't seen this, you said you're at Bennett's right now.
Yeah.
Rob Hazelwood produced a video that got me more excited than maybe anything I was looking into. I was basically an outside consultant. for the last 3 months. They wanted me to look at all the systems and analyze them and come up with a marketing plan. And allowed to talk to members of the board. They just wanted to keep that separate during the interview process, which is great. Bob Archambault is our president. It's a volunteer position. He's a hero. Like all the time he puts in, with Doug Robbins as the chair, those guys in the interview panel, hats off to them. Incredible group of volunteers, but collegiate. So watch the video. It's on Syndicate.
Yeah.
HO's YouTube. Welcome to the Jungle is the thumbnail, and they've created a festival atmosphere for these college students. And my daughter's in the live music industry, works all the big music festivals, and a lot of the college students are frugal. And even if they graduate in general, they're frugal as you know, they're not going to buy a new car. They're going to buy a used car. They're not going to buy a home right now because the rates are bad. So they'll rent. But when it comes to experiences, man, they throw down. So if it's a music festival or an experience, they are, you know, they open up their wallets, and, you know, we want to provide those types of like fun summer into fall memories. And I think Rob Hazelwood did a great job encapsulating that. The video is 8 minutes long. You know, there's a crash reel and everything. And that atmosphere is something that I want to really promote and just, you know, facilitate. And that's where our growth is going to come from.
Is 8 minutes long enough to try and encapsulate all of that? I mean, I watched the video, and I watched it at least 2-3 times. You know, I'm a big supporter of what Rob Hazelwood does. You know, even though I'm from the south of England, he's from the Midlands and the north of England. You know, so there's that kind of regional rivalry going on there. But like I said, you know, I mean, for me personally, expressing my personal opinion, 8 minutes just felt short, you know, as far as that goes. Did you feel that it was short, or was it designed to be short, you know, so you come away from watching it wanting more?
Well, you know, there's our opinion, and then there's the internet's opinion and the younger generation's opinion that 8 minutes is way too long for anything because their attention spans don't last. That attention spans might not last 30 seconds. You know, you see what's going on TikTok. It's just overload. So there's a place for all of that. What you're talking about is what I'm familiar with as a long format TV show, a show that's made for TV. I commented on the Pro Wakeboard Tour this year with Parks Bonifay, and we had a hoot. That guy is just so classic. But we do made for TV shows during the event. So it appears like it's live, but it airs on Fuel TV, and there's commercials involved, and it's like a 22-minute deal. And then you have your dockside commentator and your analyst and kind of on the lakeside studio. And I would definitely be interested in helping out and getting, you know, the right people in place to produce those type of longer format episodes at our events.
Yeah, because I I think you mentioned that you had a marketing company, or do you still operate it, or has your involvement as being as executive director meant that you had to sunset that endeavor?
I absolutely sunsetted everything that I was involved in. I started an apparel brand called the Lake Lovers Club with my good friend Dano the Mano. And his girlfriend Jane, you know, for Lake Lovers. And, you know, I'm just a silent partner at this point. I'm not hands-on at all. Kevco Media, I had a comeback last year. I did a lot of live events and TV work and stuff like that. But Tony, I'm going all in on this thing. Water skiing needs it, and I'm putting in 24/7. This is all I can think about in a good way. Ideas are always flying in, or phone calls I can make, or people I can get involved, and they're going to get everything from me. And we're going full bore, man, full throttle. You know, this is the water ski revolution.
Indeed. And you mentioned a couple of folks there that are quite recognizable within the water sports world and what have you. And they've seemed to have aligned themselves more with the World Wakeboard Association, the WWA. And I mean, give us a little bit of an indication as to as to what the relationship is between WWA and USA Water Ski, because, I mean, they haven't seen eye to eye an awful lot in recent years, or even going back into the distant past.
Sure. And, you might know more about that than me. I worked as a contractor for 20, 25 years for the WWA. I was a contest judge at all their events. I competed myself in probably 50 of their events over the years on a national scale. And, I think there's some rub on international, competition for events. But I will tell you, as far as what I can say from my position at USA, Shannon Starling reached out to me when I got this job, and he said, "I'm glad it's you." He said, "I'm glad it's you that got this job." And Corey Wilson, their executive director, she's just an amazing person and a great enthusiast. So we got on the phone. I said, "Hey, what can we do to collaborate instead of compete?" And she's just like, "Yeah, I like where this is going." So they definitely have a lock on a lot of things wakeboarding in the U.S. and beyond, and they've done a great job over the years. And those sports have had a great run. So I'm looking at this big picture, Tony. Like, put yourself in a spaceship and look down on this planet. Like, get even closer in an airplane. You can see our activities from space, like, on satellite imagery. When you're flying in a plane, you can see the trail from a boat, and you can see, oh, there's a water skier behind that boat, and that's how I'm really looking at our growth here. As all these entities exist, it's not, our differences and our competitive nature should be healthy and pushed in a healthy direction. I know there's times where it's not healthy, but I got to kind of take a bird's eye view on this thing, and how can we collaborate instead of compete?
Indeed. It's it definitely sounds like a challenge, right from the get go. But I've got a couple more questions. Hopefully, I haven't taken too much of your time from what is a pretty highfalutin position that you have right now with USA Water Ski. Now, membership numbers, obviously they haven't been where they were like several years ago, and every time the winter meeting convenes in Central Florida, the board members have to look at the grim reading that is the reduction in membership numbers. So you've explained a few ways that we can actually promote the sport and actually raise its profile. But in terms of actually raising membership numbers, are the efforts like from NCWSA really making an impact? And if not, where else can we go to increase those numbers going forward?
Sure. And yes, they have done a great job in collegiate, and we're going to continue to encourage the current athletes to get their friends involved, right? And then our job and your job and anyone listening to this podcast right now, like, people ask me, what can I do? What can I do? Get on the water, man. Like, that's the whole reason why we're around and on this podcast today, is because of our shared love for this activity. And like, you have to teach your friends and first timers, especially kids, how to do this thing. Throw them on a tube, whatever you got to do. Like, we all have our first origin story of the first time we stood upon the water and gliding across it, and that's something that we'll never forget. Show skiing is another area that's in growth. It's very healthy in the Midwest. So I look at it, I'm like, why is this only really in the Midwest? There's a little bit of activity outside the Midwest, but what are the blueprints? Where's the playbook if I want to start a show ski team in Atlanta? Atlanta's a huge area of commerce in our industry. Texas, that's another one. Mm-hmm. 3-Event is still alive and well in Texas. And what can we do to 3-Event? And this is something I don't want to speak definitively to, but I want to talk to people like you and Freddie and Regina and whoever. Real discussions on, what can we do to make these sports more appealing and more enticing? Because what I'm seeing is a lot of the names coming through, like we mentioned, the Hazelwood, I mentioned Jaden Eade, these are all family, whether it's like the Ross family, these are all skiers coming through a family lineage. But I'm looking outside that. How can we get, I'm looking at hundreds of kids playing soccer right now on these soccer fields, and we need to put up a sign that says learn to ski. If I can put it in as simple terms as possible, it's just teaching people. There's programs called Pass the Handle that started at WSIA with Zane Schwenk and Sean Murray, and super successful. Thousands and thousands of first timers got on the water because of that program. And I just, this is a call to action for anyone listening, anyone who's ever received a check of any amount from this industry or a contest. I feel like it's our duty to pass that along to other people. And, plus there's the personal rewards. It's such a gratifying experience. But like, I will say that I've seen a lot of, very exclusive pockets of activity, and that's okay. I mean, that a lot of people have worked hard to make a lot of money, and they want to dig at their private lake and lock the gate, and it's only for the members of the HOA, and that exists, and it's okay, and they're gonna exist, and I don't hate on that, but as an analyst, what can we do to kind of open those gates? It's one thing I will say wakeboarding was really good at. It was a group environment, and the boat configurations themselves, 8, 10, 12 people on the boat at a time. We were just funneling new participants into wakeboarding. So I don't have give me a couple more weeks and even a year, 2 years into this job, and we can really get tactical on what's working and what's not, and how we're going to move the needle here or there.
All right, then. I'm making a quick note of that date. This day, 2 years from now, I'll circle around back to you. But I suspect that we'll be talking a lot between now and then. Now, since insofar as membership numbers are going, one thing that apparently and for some reason beyond its intended effects, obviously. Sports, not only water skiing, but a number of amateur sports, you can go to baseball and what have you, basketball and what have you. They're national associations that govern the sport on that kind of level. In order to get funding and continued support from the USOC, they've had to implement Safe Sport. And we won't dig too deep in this one, because I'm sure that the answer to the question that I'm about to pose to Kevin is going to be definitive, and it's based upon government regulations and what have you, that we have to have this in order to get funding and what have you. So without putting too many words in your mouth, Kevin, can you comment a little bit as to the necessity of having Safe Sports, and maybe talk a little bit as to how much it's affected numbers so far as new members coming in and renewals?
Yeah, great question. Important topic. I took Safe Sport a couple years back so I could hit the jump at a ski show. And, I sat there rolling my eyes, and, they say, oh, it takes 2 hours, but it's hard. You get distracted. It ends up taking you all day because you're in and out of it. And, it's a tough process, and it is a barrier to entry. Okay. Promoters like us hate barriers to entry. We try to break those down. So naturally you think, well, why do we need this? I'm not going to have a problem in this area. Why do I need to take it? I've heard people say that. And now that I'm on this side of it, Tony, and I've seen the value, there are problems out in the field. And, one thing that our entity, your entity, anyone who does business in our space, we need to stay out of the courtroom, and we need to avoid lawsuits. So we need to document things before they happen. And this is a whole group of people that this is their full-time job for the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee. And this is our tracking mechanism, our investigation mechanism, and it's our safety blanket, because the last thing the water skiing world wants is for us to have, any financial problems because of, court battles and things, nonsense we have to get into from, unspeakable things that could exist. I mean, once you have a cross section of the population as big as we're dealing with and where we're going. You know, unfortunately, these things exist, and we're doing everything we can to make sure they don't, and that the people that are involved, aren't going to have problems, and that hopefully this isn't an issue down the line. And I do hope that the test and the refresher course become more streamlined and easier to take. And I've already been talking to Safe Sport about that.
Okay, that sounds pretty good. I mean, anything that can bring down the barrier a little bit towards entry in terms of renewals and that kind of stuff is going to help maintain our membership at its current levels. But obviously, the barrier is still there for those that want to come in as brand new members and actually actually increase the numbers for the sport and actually increase exposure type deal.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, all right then. We're almost an hour here. I was only expecting to do half an hour, but I mean, we had so many topics, so many things that we could talk about. So, as we round off this special extended length version of the TWBC Podcast, episode 150. To start off the year 2024, any parting comments you would like to make, and I'll leave the floor to you in this regard.
Yeah, thank you, man. I have a comment and then I have a question for you. But first off, I want to say I've been on some Zoom meetings and I've really started to understand what you and Vince and your whole crew are doing, and it's very impressive. And your drive and your grit. I know what it's like to produce events like this, especially live webcasts, and the amount of things that can go wrong and the conditions. And I mean, it takes people with a true love for this sport. There's not, it's a $2 billion industry that we're in, but event to event and all the travel and lodging and hustle that you guys have, I'm just genuinely impressed by that. And water skiing is very lucky to have you.
I feel a doozy coming on here.
No, that's a fun one. But I was just wondering, you said 150 episodes. You've definitely generated, a lot of information and knowledge that I can benefit from. But what's the most surprising things you've learned since before you were a podcaster and now, 150 episodes later? What do you think it needs? And what have you learned about the sport? What's your perspective on it now? And what do you think it needs?
Oh, like I said, I felt a doozy coming on, and this question doesn't disappoint. I wish I could provide you with a succinct answer. I mean, one of the best episodes that I did was with Joel Howley, from Australia. You probably heard that one. It was one of the latest ones, and his testing process with his ski brand Conley and what have you, and how that goes about, and how he fits time with doing that and whatever else he does, and that kind of stuff. And I mean, I could probably reel off about 3 or 4 different episodes that are around about the same topic. But just hearing skiers' perspectives on how they go about their business, and they're all different. I mean, you got jumpers like Freddie Krueger, you've got slalomers like Joel Howley, you got overall skiers. Such as Joel Poland, who is an absolute just a beast out there on the water. I mean, you've seen him.
Love it. Yeah.
So I mean, long drawn out answer, and not giving you too much away there. But I do thank you for that question. And anything else you want to say before we part ways temporarily?
Yeah, one thing. If you want to support this thing and you want to see the future bright. We have a $20 supporting membership, and you get printed copies of the Water Skier magazine and, other benefits, discounts on airlines and apparel and all that stuff. So you're sitting out there, what can I do? usawaterski.org is our website. Go to membership and just please, that's something you can do. And then just get on the water. Invite me out on the water, please. If you're a professional listening to this, I want to spend time with you, see how we can help grow your career and make some cool content.
Indeed. Actually, oh, man, I wish I didn't have to do this. But the one question that I missed out on: a lot of people come over to Florida to compete, and a lot of other states to compete in competitions, and they have national memberships from their home country, and a lot of those instances they've had to take a course like Safe Sport in their own nations, and a lot of the same topics are covered. From my point of view, from an idea standpoint, would it be feasible to have like a AWSA membership that would preclude the need for having to do that kind of thing if they can provide proof that they have in their home nation and that it aligns accordingly with what Safe Sport offers to its domestic members in the United States?
Yeah, I mean, great question. I'm still looking into that. I wish I could answer that more definitively, but yeah, I got to learn more about that, Tony. Sorry, man.
Okay, that's fine. But the question is out there, and hopefully you can
working on it.
Circling back. So this has been the latest episode of the TWBC Podcast, episode 151. My conversation with Kevin Michael, and great to have you on board, man.
Oh, thanks. It's great to hear your voice. This was awesome. Thank you.
No worries. And if you want to support the TWBC podcast, you can get in touch with me, podcast@waterskibroadcasting.com, looking for sponsorships for future episodes and even indeed the entire season. But until next time, this is Tony Lightfoot saying, ski you later.
Thank you for listening to the TWBC podcast. Be sure to check out our website at waterskibroadcasting.com. Links to our presence on major social media platforms can be found there, as well as updates to our webcast and this podcast. Duplication or rebroadcasting of this broadcast without written consent of TWBC is prohibited. Subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform and be sure to join us next time for the next edition of the TWBC Podcast.